Welcome to Be Great Today, weekly inspiration to start your week. I am Jonathan Bloom, or Frasley Sparkspan, in World of Warcraft. I was thinking back on the risks I've taken, the things I've tried to get me to where I am at now. Take, for instance, when I was a child in 4th grade. I decided to join my church's elementary choir. Through this group, we did things like a play about when Jesus healed a person who was lowered through a roof. We sang for different church services. This choir helped me get used to performing in front of people. I met so many friends through the choir. It was a positive influence on me as a kid. I also got to perform in the medieval feast that happened every couple of years. I learned a lot about how to put on a good show for an audience. When I was older in high school, we performed the musical Godspell. This was an incredible thing for many reasons. I was homeschooled from the 5th grade on, so the only play I performed in school was one about being fish under the sea. And there was that one about a farm. Both of those in elementary school. Godspell was one of my first major performances. We had weekly practices. The choir director brought in a theatrical director and a choreographer. Along the way, I don't know what they were thinking, but they gave me a solo part in the opening song. I agreed to take on that part. It was a risk that terrified me. It turned out to be a great role, though, and I believed I performed it well all 3 performances. I even got to ham up my part, which was a lot of fun. If I had not taken a risk in my youth, I never would have gotten to experience the many memories of choir. I cherish those memories still to this day. When I was at Hershey Park one day, I was about 9. There was a kid standing near me in line. We both were kind of bored, anxious to ride the roller coaster. I decided, hey, I wonder if this kid wants to talk. Me, never truly listening to my parents about stranger danger, started to talk with the kid. What happened next was we found out we had so many interests together. We then introduced my parents to his parents. They started talking, finding interest together, while I ran off with the kid to ride all the rides. Our parents were relieved to not have to go on 18 gazillion roller coasters. Due to the lack of social media at the time, this was pre-Facebook. Some of you might not know what it's like to have a time before Facebook. I lost touch with the kid afterwards, but I won't ever forget that day. It was an example to me of taking a risk and striking up a conversation. Another risk I took when I was younger was getting onto Slime Time Live. I was 11 that year, and we were at Universal Studios Orlando, about 9 years before the Wizarding World of Harry Potter took over. Back then you could still ride Jaws. Around lunch, I had remembered that Slime Time Live was filmed at this location. We walked over to the old, well, not old at the time, blue and orange Nickelodeon Studios soundstage. You know, the one that they always say, filmed live before an audience at the Nickelodeon Studios in Orlando, Florida. That was that same soundstage. It's now like the Blue Man Group. We just happened to get there as they were casting that day's contestants. I took a risk and put in my name. I got picked. I was going to be on Slime Time Live. The experience was so amazing. We went to the green room. We changed into the contestant outfits so we would not ruin the clothes we wore into the park. Our parents were relieved about that. Along the way, I got to meet Jessica Holmes, Jonah Travick, and Dave Azer, the cast of the show that I watched every day. What was cool is Dave Azer, live on TV, actually interviewed me, and he remarked to the audience at how I was taller than him, and I was 11. Sadly, our team didn't win, so I didn't get slimed. But I got to sit in the audience, be part of a live TV production, and got to live out one of my dreams. All it took was a risk. If anyone has a copy of the video for 9/10 of Slime Time Live, please let me know. Yes, it is the day before the tragic events of 9/11. We don't have video of my competing in Slime Time Live. It was before you could program DVRs. Well, even before DVRs, actually. And the only copy my sibling made on a VHS tape was accidentally overwritten. Many of us have done that. I have been looking for this footage for a long time, but I haven't found it. It may be lost to the recesses of time, and only a product of my memories now. I included a link to an episode of Slime Time Live in the show notes if you never saw it or want to relive memories of the show. I talked last episode, episode 34, about how I took a risk by going to adventure camp. I also remember taking a risk at a work camp I went to. There was a kid there. I just started talking with him on the first day, and throughout the week, we became good friends. Sadly, again, due to the lack of social media and due to seasons of friendship, we lost contact a year later. But that week, I was used to change his life. He gave his life to Christ that week. He was struggling with different things in his life. He found a hope to go on. Through the year, I learned about how things were going better for him. All because I took a risk to make a friend who needed me. There is a place in Pigeon Forge called the Comedy Barn. It is a show that I love going to see when we're there. The cast just have a great time, and it's fun for the whole family. One time in November of 2008, while on a trip with my family and friends, we went to the Comedy Barn. That evening, they asked for guests from the audience. I put my hand up, and I was selected! Was I excited, nervous, and afraid? Oh, absolutely. However, it was so much fun finally getting to do what I had wanted to do on prior shows when we were there. I was just myself. I'm glad I took a risk on it. I have a link to the video of me on stage in the show notes. It was a risk at being on stage, trying something new. When I was 15, I loved watching G4, which later merged with Tech TV and became G4 Tech TV, which is now pretty much no longer around. The channel returned to being called G4 and became Spike. It is now apparently called Paramount Network. Many of the hosts on that network are now doing other things like shows on the TWiTThe network. Many are also now on the new screensavers. I had watched the screensavers on both Tech TV and G4 Tech TV. In October of 2005, they were doing a 30-second horror film contest. I decided at the age of 15 to enter a webcam video of my cat with a voiceover by me.
My name is Tab. I am coming for you. I am a killer cat. Whoa, I am hungry. I sense another victim. Whoa.
This video is also in the show notes. This was selected Beyond the TV. I have a video of that in the show notes as well. I was so blown away to be on TV when I got the email. I anxiously tuned in that evening that it was to air, waiting the whole episode. I had my DVD recorder at the ready, as we now had DVD recording at the time. When it aired, I couldn't believe that something I did was on live TV for countless people to watch. The host of the show then did commentary and said my nickname at the time, which was Carl Banks. It was just so cool seeing something I did on TV. That experience led me to later on take the same webcam and act out a show called The Mr. Fluffles Show.
Good evening, Mr. James Bond. I am your worst nightmare.
Or maybe I uploaded this to Google Video, which is now YouTube, and sent it to all my friends. I had my family also sit down to watch this. I know, I'm sorry. I recorded other episodes of it as well, along with countless other videos. Some of those videos I still have. Some are sadly lost to time due to not properly backing them up and such. Some of it's probably better that they're lost just because they weren't the best quality. I was still learning. On my 16th birthday, my parents bought me a copy of the video editing software Pinnacle Studio and a bunch of stuffed animals.
Good evening on the Mr. Fluffles Show. I am your host, Mr. Fluffles, and our special surprise was our new couch. Whee!
I kept making the Mr. Fluffles Show. I also made other videos like the 7 o'clock news with my friend Eric Gouter.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 7 o'clock news. I'm Andy Salmon, and this is the news. So, how's your day going? Yeah.
And episodes of a superhero show called Superbug Take 2.
What happened to the control room?
After you stopped Evil Code's plot to cover the moon in tinfoil using the Casino Space cruise ship, the commissioner agreed to let us remodel our headquarters. We have more room.
All of these helped me see my love for media and my love for the medium of audio and video. So my earlier work is not great, but it began who I am now. It just took a risk, and then another risk, and then another. I took a risk in 2012 when I began to compete in ballroom dancing. This was something my instructor suggested. I was terrified to try it. My first dance competition is a blur, as I was shaking the whole time. I think I remember one of the songs, but I don't remember much of it. Thankfully, my instructor was dancing with me, so so they made me look good. I have a video in the show notes of my newcomer Salsa. I believe this is of my first competition, but I can't quite remember, but in any case, it's one of my first competitions. I then started performing in the studio showcases when they started them up. I was more ready to perform in front of the studio because I took a step in competing. It is harder to compete in front of people you know, because you then have to see them again. At competitions, you will see some of them, but some you won't ever see again. By the time this episode goes live, I'll have been at another competition with someone who will be competing for the first time. And they feel exactly how I felt before my first competition. I would never have taken on my degree in communications if I hadn't known that I like media and performing. It gave me kind of a purpose. It showed me what I like. Starting college was a risk, and I've talked about some of that in prior episodes. A few years ago, I took a course at Lumerit, which is the organization that is helping me get my degree in communications. They were starting a new course called Interpersonal Communications. This course ended with me having an informative and persuasive speech. I was able to use my video experience, my performing experience, and my TV experience. Very limited, but I still was on TV twice. Not to mention the time I took a risk to have the news out to our house because we lost power for a week and lost all our food. A reporter on Facebook asked for anyone who was affected by this and wanted to be interviewed. But I used all that experience to do the presentations. It was fun and a bit intimidating, creating a presentation to convey a message. All of these risks have brought me to where I am now, trying things, sometimes not knowing what the outcome will be. I have learned so much from my experiences. I started a risk and started this podcast along with my others. It has been a great experience so far. I have learned a lot from doing it, and I am excited to see where it goes. Everything I've done up to this point has led me here, to this moment. Things I do now are because of past experiences. I didn't even go into detail on the podcast conferences I've been to or how my videos got me invited out to San Jose and Boston for a conference. That's a story for another time. There are many people who have taken great risks and achieved great things. Kaz, the person I interviewed on episode 11, took a risk to begin cosplay and ended up winning the BlizzCon 2017 cosplay contest. They now have begun making a career out of cosplay. Jim York, who I interviewed in episode 13, took a risk to get a Firetruck to Belize because of a need they saw and wanted to fulfill. I've heard stories of the risks J.K. Rowling, John Grisham, Dr. Seuss, and more have taken to get their books published. I started this episode with just one risk. And as I was writing, it skyrocketed into a list of many of the risks I've taken. I can definitely go on about the risks I've taken. This episode became longer than I expected. But all of these things added pieces to the puzzle of who Jonathan Bloom is. I'll probably think of more risks while I'm finishing up this episode. It has amazed me how many risks I've taken as I was writing this. I'll talk about more risks I've taken as we continue our journey together with this podcast. I know you have taken risks of yourself. Email me at podcast@b-great.today, call 1-440-536-3711, tweet me at Jonathan Bloom, or leave a comment on this episode. I'd love to hear about what risks you have taken. Taking risks is definitely scary. There are risks I haven't taken, and risks I'll take in the future. However, I am so glad looking back at my risks that I took them. I can't believe where I'm at now. So many things would be different if I hadn't taken these risks. Getting here is a risk, but I might not be speaking to you right now if I hadn't taken the risks I did. Thank you for taking your risk and listening to this week's Be Great Today. You can find this show at b-great.today/35. If this episode has inspired you, and you know someone who can use inspiration on their journey, please share this podcast episode with your friends. Until next week, be awesome. Take risks. You never know where it may take you. Maybe to Slime Time Live. Well, actually, that show ended late 2000s. But you never know where it'll take you.
Want more awesomeness every week? Visit weeklyawesome.com. Weekly podcasts to make your week better. Remember to smile and be awesome.